Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian, sesi ini akan berlangsung dalam bahasa Inggris. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, in this session speakers from local and international speakers will explore how artificial intelligence in the financial services industry, emphasizing its impact on business models, customer experience, and risk management. So allow me to briefly present their profile. Bapak Hoki Situngkir, Direktur Jenderal Aplikasi Informatika Kementerian Komunikasi dan Digital. Bapak Hoki Situngkir, a dedicated researcher and public servant in Indonesia's technology and communication sector, has been instrumental in ensuring digital safety since 2018. As the Director General of Informatics Applications at the Ministry of Communications and Digital, Republic of Indonesia, he draws on extensive ICT experience to eradicate online gambling and create a safe and productive digital landscape for all stakeholders. Mr. Manoj Kumar Sharma, Managing Director, Microsafe Consulting. He is a development and inclusive finance expert with over 28 years of experience. Manoj has extensive experience in digital channels for financial inclusion, agent-based outreach channels, risk and fraud management, and client protection issues in a digitized world. Bapak Budi Ganda Subrata, Head of Regulatory and Public Affairs, Goto Financial. He is an experienced fintech professional with focus on product strategy and GRC. He has also deep understanding in payments and fintech regulatory landscape in the region. Currently also serving as the Secretary General of Indonesia Fintech Association, AFTEC. Jekyll Ma, Chairman Trust Decision. He is a globally experienced leader with a rich history of over 3 decades in technology and business. Jekyll Ma spearheaded numerous of initiatives that focus on inclusiveness, financial integrity, and the elimination of fraud, leaving a lasting imprint on the technology and financial industries. This session will be moderated by Bapak Jauhari Sitorus, Project Manager, International Labor Organization. He is joining the Promise to Impact project with focus on strengthening the SME sector and access to inclusive finance through digital technology adoption. He is a financial sector specialist with over 30 years of experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's warmly welcome them with a big round of applause. Bapak Hoki Situngkir, Mr. Manoj Kumar Sharma, Bapak Budi Ganda Subrata, Jekyll Ma, Chairman Trust Decision, and the moderator, Bapak Jauhari Sitorus. The stage is yours.
All right, gentlemen, can we start? Yes. Okay, great. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Nama Budaya, Salam Kebajikan. Selamat sore, Bapak Ibu, friends and colleagues. It is an honor for me to be here and also to be the moderator for this panel discussion, which actually takes a very interesting topic, AI in fintech sector. I think this is a very trending and very popular topic, and I'm sure many, if not all of you, are familiar with the notion or with the buzzword of artificial intelligence nowadays, especially with the release of ChatGPT about 2 years ago, and I think all of us have somewhat used ChatGPT or other generative AI tool. AI, in more particularly the generative AI, has emerged as the transformative force that reshaping our society, our industry, our economy, the way we live, the way we work. Just to give you context, the last McKinsey Global Survey on AI found that 65% of the respondents globally said the organizations regularly use generative AI. And also 99% of the Fortune 500 companies already incorporated AI in their operation. Now, what's the picture in financial service industry? Another McKinsey report stated that 90% of financial institutions have to some degree a centralized generative AI function in their infrastructure as of March 2024. I'm sure the percentage will be higher in the case of fintech companies. AI in fintechs is really a game changer phenomenon because AI is really transforming fintech and actually also boosts an increase of the business. For instance, one of the results of a study that I looked a couple of days ago estimated that the global AI in fintech was valued about almost $10 billion in 2021, and it is expected to grow by a compounded annual growth rate of 16.5% annually. So we're looking at about 40 billion in the next 10 years or so. So really amazing the impact of AI adoption in the fintech industry. Now, what are the benefits of AI to fintech industries? There are several benefits, but I think we can categorize them into 3 main areas. The first one is AI actually improve business operation of fintech companies, right? With AI, fintech companies can eliminate a large number of manual works through automation, that process, address issue of shortage of people, significantly reduce human errors, and this eventually will increase revenue, do some cost saving, and increase the bottom line. A study actually suggests that incorporating or using AI in fintech could actually save costs by as much as 23% and increase revenue by 35%. I think this is a very big number, and I think it's very promising. The second area is AI improve customer experiences, which leading to increased retention, loyalty, and referral for fintech services. You know, with AI, fintech can offer what we call personalized services to the customers. I think this is another benefit of AI to the fintech industries. The third one, the last but not least, is that AI actually is strengthening the capabilities of fintech companies to do what we call predictive analytics and data-driven insight or decision-making, which is useful for risk management, regulatory compliance, and also fraud prevention and detection. Having said that, there are also emerging issues and challenges when it comes to adoption of AI by fintech company. First is on balancing innovation and data privacy. So fintech companies have to make sure that actually they are practicing what we call ethical and safety AI practices. Included here is the challenging task of complying with becoming more complex regulatory landscape enforced by the regulators. Another issue is how this AI actually help fintech to be more relevant to a broader development agenda of the government. For instance, how fintech can now make use of AI to serve the underserved population, perhaps the people in rural areas, the farmers, you know. So these are a group of people that known to be still left behind in terms of financial access. So we are going to discuss some of these issues and go deep dive on this. And we are so privileged to have a very esteemed speakers, and they come from a different group of stakeholders. So we have Pak Hoki from regulator, Pak Budi and Pak Jakmal from the industry, and Pak Manos representing a sort of independent view from research company, both in Indonesia and globally. So I will ask, the first round, I will ask each of the panelists one question, and I'm kindly asking each of the panelists to respond. And I would appreciate if you can keep your answer in 3 minutes, so you will have time for another round of questions. Okay, gentlemen? All right. Right, so my first question goes to Pak Hoki. Thank you for coming, Pak Hoki.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
So, Pak Hoki, how do you see artificial intelligence reshaping traditional business models in the fintech industry, and how AI can help industry players and regulators to expand financial inclusion, particularly in the underserved market?
Yeah, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Mr. Budi, Mr. Ma, Mr. Manoj, and Mr. Sitorus. I'm very glad to be here among the esteemed people. And I must say that before my tenure, long before my tenure as a Director General in the ministry, I was, maybe started 20 years ago, I was a researcher with Professor Yohanes Surya. We are trying to make some kind of a innovation. I don't know if you have the audience familiar with econophysics. Econophysics at that time, 20 years ago, 2 decades ago, trying to do a lot of many non-parametric statistics on data. At the time, we used the machine learning, like neural network models, and so on, into the time series data of finance, from banking, stock markets, and so on. And right now, everything is very different. All the neural network models have become some kind of just elementary models to become a part of AI. And AI can make people, the analysts, to get more information, extract more information to the data, the big amount of data. And even with some small amount of data, we can regenerate it with many AI models. And I think that's the core where the AI can reshape the industry, the fintech industry, I suppose. Because at least, like the question of the Pak Sitorus, I think it's going to be very important to enhance the onboarding population into the financial sector, digital financial sector, because micro-lending platforms can use AI to assess risk more accurately for individuals with lack traditional credit histories, for example. And the other way, maybe make more enhancement for the compliance for the regulatory, like the know your customer by using the AI, digital platform, your phones, your gadgets, and so on. And also make some kind of a lot of pattern analysis for the fraud detection system. And it's very important for the, aside from the less, what do you call it, less cost for the customer service and so on. I think, yeah, I think the title of our discussion right now is very quite accurate. How AI can conquest the fintech. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Hoki. I'll turn to Pak Budi, please. Thank you.
So I think how AI can improve, and we have seen a lot of examples, especially in the fintech space. So in a way, both Pak Jauhari and Pak Hoki have mentioned, one of them is actually how do we increase operational efficiency through AI. KYC is actually one example. For example, with digital finance, the onboarding process, it's not face-to-face, but now you have to do it through a mobile phone. Then basically the challenge is how do you ensure that the customer that are being onboarded are one, real customer and legitimate customer. Because with technologies and threats such as deepfake, image injection, how can fintech companies able to detect fake users coming into their platform by also utilizing AI to detect some of these malicious activities? So deepfake detection is actually one of AI implementation in order to detect a lot of these malicious users coming into your platform. So that's one example. Another example is, for example, there's operational efficiency in terms of image to text recognition. You train your model by supplying endless supply of documents, so your model is trained to be able to predict like if there's a text in an image, how do you convert it to text? So that's also increased the conversion of user onboarding, for example. And also from a fraud perspective, AI can also be used for predictive modeling based on users' transactions behavior to predict, for example, money laundering activities, fraudulent transactions, account takeovers, and a lot of these fraudulent activities that most fintech companies are under the risk for. To your question, how can it also improve inclusion, especially to the mass market segment? And this is the whole thesis of digital finance and also fintech companies. The fact that we are now in a mobile phone and with the ubiquitousness of telecom infrastructure now in the market, theoretically speaking, it should be easier for users to be onboarded and to be supplied with financial services. However, again, the challenge is how do you have a functionally equivalent activities by face-to-face onboarding and change them to a much more seamless onboarding process through an app. And that's how AI can also help as well. And this is how fintech leverage some of these technologies in order to make it easier for people to adopt financial services rather than going to a bank, apply for a loan. Now you can use it from mobile phone. And then everything is done in the background in terms of risk scoring, credit risk underwriting process, KYC activities, and after onboarding, monitoring, and also detection, including reporting to the authorities if needed.
Great, thank you so much, gentlemen, Pak Hoki and Pak Bodi. Pak Jakalma, can you respond to the same question, please?
Well, I would think there's three areas. I think with AI, we're seeing a lot of customers using AI to expand the market reach. So for example, previously, they don't understand their customer that much because there's not enough information about them. But right now with AI, we actually are analyzing a lot more data, especially alternative data, so that we can reach to more customers. And then we know these people more than just their credit record, for example. So there's a lot of alternative data information that can help reaching more people. And also, the same thing is, besides reaching them with better analytics, understand them, you also will produce better product. Because in one of the examples that I have in other countries, what happened is, using these AI algorithms, you can actually understand what's the gap between what the micro SMEs want from the financial institutions versus what the financial institutions is offering. Like if everybody want a 45-day terms, but they only offer 30 days and 60 days, there's a huge gap that you can really help the MSME. But you really can use AI to analyze some of these gaps. So I think market reach together with product reach is the number one thing. The second thing that I think is really it enhanced predictability, as we have talked about. And in my context, I see the predictability really are on the credit side as well as on the fraud side. So the credit side, we talk about it a lot. And then right now, we have a lot more data that we can analyze, a huge amount of unstructured data that in the past I cannot analyze. Now I can get them into my alternative data stream and start analyzing them so that my predictability on my credit side is a lot better. And then on the fraud side, it's even huge. My company actually have over 100 million API code on fraud. Is this a fraudulent activities every day? Okay, globally. So without AI, I think I'm limited to how much things I can correlate. To correlate the fraudsters, are they, we just talked about one day they are in Indonesia and then the other day we find out that they're in Peru. That's exactly the same type of things that we see with AI, I can analyze a lot more data and information. And then in the long run, also, we talk about KYC. We really think AI help improving the efficiency so much more on the KYC area. We, like before generative AI, I have a function in my company that I offer to people globally. We can recognize about 14,000 IDs around the world. But like the accuracy is not enough in some of these areas because people will try to trick you. They will try to turn and tilt the IDs so that you cannot recognize and then you will pass. And now with generative AI, I actually improve the accuracy so much so that I have a lot less people involvement. So this efficiency really is huge. So I really think like AI help a lot in these three contexts. And getting to your final question regarding inclusion, I always look at inclusions in a few areas. First is financial inclusion. Of course, with what I've discussed, we can reach to more people that we previously they're unbanked and so on. I work with one of the impact fund to analyze like what we have done worldwide. And one thing that we've done is just in the year of 2022, we've helped over 20 million people in Indonesia who doesn't have credit record in the past to get into the financial cycle. I think these are very interesting things. And I think like really with AI, we can do more in terms of like getting financial inclusion, like to deepen them. Get financial inclusion to more micro SMEs by analyzing things such as emission data and an interesting thing. I have a program that analyzes rice field using satellite image and so on. These are all things that in the past with our AI's help is huge amount of data that I cannot process. And I think these things are going to help financial inclusion. And then the next thing from an inclusion perspective is digital inclusion. So on one hand, it's really important on financial inclusion, but these people don't know how to protect them. You get them on board and they don't understand it. So digital literacy is also very important in the overall scheme of things. So we need to protect them from fraud. Like otherwise, people, you get them on board and online and later on their money all gets stolen by the fraudsters. So getting digital inclusion is also very important, but AI really help on that as well, all in all. So that's my perspective.
Thank you so much, Pak Jaka. Very, very interesting insight. Last but not least, Pak Manoj, I hope you can also give us sort of perspective in other countries in sort of what can be done beyond what you have seen currently in Indonesia. Please, Pak.
Thanks, Pa. I think, technology per se, we look at it as an enabler. If we take the case of KYC, we did some numbers, let's say about 7, 8, 10 years ago. And we said that if a bank is to conduct a KYC for a customer, it costs, let us say, about 100,000 rupiah just to conduct the KYC. The moment there is a digital identity available, let's say like an Aadhaar in India, that cost come down to maybe 1,000 rupiah. Because of which, India could go to 80% of Indians, individuals, having bank accounts over a period of just 5 years. Now, there is evidence to show that bank account ownership is linked to the economic progress of a country. So actually, by the time India comes to 80% account ownership, it would have taken us 50 years. But just because of technology and reducing the cost, we could do that in 5 years. So I think it's a very similar story with AI or artificial intelligence, that for the inclusion segment, for the segments that we care for, 10 years ago, if we look for it, we were competing with the developed world, which had a plethora of laptops and desktops and so on. And we used to think that, when will we get to that status? When will an Indonesia get to a status where every household has a laptop or a desktop? That was unthinkable, or in India would get to that status. But today, because of the smartphone, every poor person, every low-income segment will have at least one smartphone in the house, if not in an individual's hand. That then leaves a data exhaust. So every person is generating some data, some footprint. And the usage of that can then be that we use it to develop products, delivery channels, and processes to be able to reach out to this segment. I think for us, that is very exciting, that a segment that was almost, we used to think that it is impossible to service this segment. I'll give you another sort of example that we did some numbers, and I'll just give you an order of magnitude. That in India, if a poor person walks into a bank branch, it costs about 250 Indian rupees to be able to allow him or her to deposit or withdraw at a bank branch. And if the person is just putting in 1,000 rupees or withdrawing 1,000 rupees, it doesn't work for the bank. The bank cannot service this individual. You come down to an ATM, which is a technology at play, and you can reduce the cost to 25 rupees. You get to a banking agent, and you can reduce the cost to 2 rupees 50 paisa. Plus, just imagine now that this person is onboarded onto the financial platform, the amount of data that this person is generating, which allows us to then evaluate this data, build models around this data, and to offer him or her more customized products and services. I think it opens a whole new world for us, Pa.
Thank you so much. I think all the panelists agree that AI actually really transforming the fintech business in many, many facets of the business. I'd like to go back to Pak Budi, but you're part of the bigger ecosystem, Goto, right? So you have like e-commerce, what else? The food delivery, on-demand transportation. So you have a big data in store for you. So can you tell us a bit more detail and how actually you've been using this data for improving your customer experiences, offering a personalized services?
Of course. So the blessing of being a part of a larger ecosystem is, as you said, we have a large amount of data. And just to give like one very specific example, given that we've been talking about KYC, is that in Goto Financial GoPay today, we have collected millions of images of KTP, which is the ID card. If I may, can I ask for all the panelists' permission? I have a picture that I want to show, just to really showcase how we utilize the data. So I have I think I've sort of like mentioned, can you show the slides, especially on the KYC part? And this is, I promise you, this is cool, right? So the idea is we have millions of KTP data, right? And when you do KYC, you need to take a picture of your selfie and also your ID card, right? That process is cumbersome. In some cases, you need to manually input your KTP data. Given that we have millions of KTP images, we are able to train the model to be able to predict, you look at the left-hand side, right? To be able to predict the image of the KTP and immediately using OCR with 99.4% accuracy to extract all the information. Immediately, given that we have connectivity to the Ministry of Homeland Affairs, everything is done instantaneously. On the next part, this is where it gets cooler. So just one more slide. I promise you, just 2 slides. This is the deepfake detection that I mentioned about. So the idea is, this is also AI to be able to prevent malicious actor coming into the ecosystem. So if you look at some of the fraudsters that they're trying to do, they use 3D mask, they use printers with face on it. In most cases, a lot of the digital finance and digital banks, it goes through, right? We managed to train the model to be able to predict whether the person in front of you is actually real humans or not. So just have a look at some of the pictures here. And based on that, we are able to prevent, one, we were able to accurately predict the image of the KTP and then do a proper due diligence and ID verification. But that secondly, we were able to prevent fraud from malicious actor coming into the ecosystem as well. And again, to your question, right? We are only able to do this because we leverage a lot of the data that we have internally in order to be able to do this, especially to increase not only customer experience, but also making the platform much more secure, especially from a KYC and user verification perspective.
Excellent. I think that's a really interesting example. Actually, a very nice prelude to my question, Pa Hoki. Like companies have big data, and some of the data are subject to data privacy and all that. So I'm referring to one of the circular letter, Surat Edaran, Minister of Communication and Informatics, number 9, 2023, on the ethic of AI. So my question is, how is your ministry actually designing the framework to balance innovation on one hand, but also consumer protection on the other hand.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I think when we talk a lot about the advantage that we can gain from AI, it's maybe limitless. But I believe that there are two things that should be concerned by us as an industry leader for the fintech. The first is about the cybersecurity and safety. Cybersecurity, in Indonesia we have two laws right now. We have the Undang-Undang ITE and then the Undang-Undang PDP, which should be complied with a lot of, and also we have already just launched it right now, the model. And the second is about the digital safety. Digital safety is, well, I believe that you have already followed in the news that even some of our staffs are being caught by police right now because the illegal online gambling right now. So the easiness of people get on board into the fintech should be put into the consideration of by many bad people that try to exploit this. And I think the cooperation and collaboration with the fintech industry in Indonesia, we rely on that very much. That's the first one. And the second one is about the circular letter. I think there are three things to be seen as a circular letter for the using of AI. Is the first three principles. The first is the human oversight. Still, human is important. However, it's very good in automatic process and so on, especially when it comes to the safety, as I mentioned before. The second is about the non-discrimination. We've heard a lot of story about the bias in the AI and so on. We should put into consideration when we try to advance the technology of AI in any sectors, not only the fintech actually. And the third one is the transparency. So the developers should open to the public, especially to the subject of the data, of how they use their privacy of the data, how they train the system, and so on. I think that's the three things that should be put into consideration, a part of the cybersecurity and the digital safety, because AI is offensive with a lot of opportunities, but we need something defensive to keep us on the road. That's cybersecurity and digital safety. Thank you.
Excellent, Pak. Okay, so it's like gas and rem, Pak, yeah? So one person, actually, it's fintech more than gassing, accelerator, and the other government tend to sort of be more on the cautious side. So actually then I'll go back to Pak Jakal. Your company provides tools, predictive analysis based on AI-driven and data analytics. So referring to the three things that Pak Hoki mentioned, is there anything that the technology can do to actually reduce the bias, for instance, keep the transparency and perhaps increase the trust by not even there's no human actually overseeing the transaction or recording or data. Can you comment on that, Pak Jakal?
Well, I think since when I first built my company, a big dream of what I'm building is what I call a global trust intelligence network. It's a huge amount of information. For example, right now, I think my company have about 7 billion end devices informations globally. Where's the good people, where's the bad people, and so on. So with that, you really can create impact on reducing fraud. And by reducing fraud, you actually make it a better or fairer ground, okay? But on the other hand, as you use more and more AI, as you have mentioned, how do you make sure the algorithms that you introduce is not unfair? So you are actually giving more advantage to the people that's of the profile that's matching certain area, but you give other people less chance of being exposed to certain things. So as technologists, we need to be very careful about these algorithms to be fair. And then I think regulators actually have a big part to play to make sure whatever we produce is fair to the public. And that has been a lot of discussion around that. Basically, the information that we have around making sure these people are who they are, okay? And then I really like the test and then the graphic about, because we just track one group of fraudsters in Indonesia by finding out that every time they do facial recognitions and liveness detection, there's somebody else beside these people, teaching them how to do it. And it's exactly the same person. And we find out that this person is fraudulent. So we actually, by identifying more information and data and so on, we can make sure, hey, we don't want to give way to these fraudsters. We don't want to give more chance to the average person to make everything more fair, as like we've discussed. So I think these are very important things that we can do with AI and what we can do.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us some practical insights. So I'll go to Pa Manoj again. Can you share with us some real examples, case studies, where the use of AI by fintech or financial institutions more broadly has successfully mitigated risk in the financial service industry, be it in the fraudulence, unfair treatment, bias toward those who are actually perhaps do not need the products and all that. So maybe there's experience from your engagement with many countries in other countries?
So basically what we are trying to do is that if you look at the way banking was done, banking was always in the confines of the banking hall. So you always had a transaction where a bank employee was attending to a customer. We got this transaction out into the field and we appointed agents that reduced the cost, that improved access. But our systems were designed only for the transaction in the bank branch. So of course, frauds went up very significantly. So now the effort that is going on is that from the time the client enters the agent outlet for a transaction, how do we track the engagement of this client with the machine and with the agent so that we are able to see if there is any chance of a fraud happening? There are, of course, different methodologies that are being followed, including things like how much time is the transaction taking. If there is an inordinate delay happening, then chances are that frauds are going up. The central bank in India, for example, has even said that for every transaction that happens, the agent needs to authenticate it with its own biometric, because India is a very biometric-based transaction country that's happening. But an even more interesting thing that's happening for us in that environment is that there is an effort to bring different data streams together. Financial services, by the nature in which they grew, there is a banking regulator. In some countries like Indonesia, there is a payment regulator. There is an insurance regulator. So banking data or financial services data is fractured across different regulators. So the idea is that how do we bring all this data streams together so that there is an ability to give players like these a more holistic view of financial services that this client is accessing. So if I go to either of them for a loan, they can see how much insurance I have, they can see how many payment transactions I make, they can look at my savings account, and they can also see how much credit have I taken and what has been my repayment track record. So there are efforts to de-risk the customer, but there are also efforts to de-risk the players, saying that we will give you access to a full 360-degree of financial services transactions. For that, in India, they have created a framework called the account aggregator. An account aggregator is only a pass-through transaction. So the account aggregator cannot view any of my data. So in that sense, it meets the need of the regulator in terms of data privacy. But if I authorize, only if I authorize, my data will become visible to them so that they can take a credit call. And what it will do is, it will then allow me to access many players, show my data to them and say, what is the rate at which you are giving me a credit?
Okay. Right, thank you so much. It's a very interesting topic, and unfortunately we don't have much time. But I'd like to request each of the panelists to give a closing remark, a very short one, sort of like perhaps a summary of discussion, or something that you hope will be something useful and to follow up, or maybe just something that you think you need to convey to the audience. Please, from Pak Budi.
So I'll start. I think my pragmatic approach with AI, especially in implementing it in the financial service sector, is think big, but start small. Try to look for pockets of opportunities to increase your operational efficiencies, be it fraud mitigation, KYC, again, whatever you want to do, predicting users' credit scoring. Think big. AI can do wonders for you, but start small with some of these small pockets of opportunities.
Excellent point. Pak Hoki?
Yeah, from the regulatory side, of course. Aside from all of the very interesting advancement of AI and so on, I'm just asking to all of us here, I think especially with the fintech industries operating in Indonesia, is that about digital literacy. I think it's not only the responsibility of the government, but also the industry as well, because we don't want to have a kind of a product of fintech that is being used by bad people with bad intention and so on. I think that's the only thing that I would like to highlight right now, that digital literacy is very important, aside while we also make a lot of leap and advancement in the fintech industry. Thank you.
Thank you, and fully agree that digital literacy is also important. Pak Jakal, please.
Well, we've been talking about financial inclusion for many, many years now. And I really think we're still very early in the game in true financial inclusion. So what I really want is, if like with AI and like smarter decision intelligence, we can really affect more people, in particular for people in rural area, people in agriculture, people in aquaculture, and all the micro SMEs that really need our help from a financial inclusion perspective. I believe with like AI, we will do better there.
Perfect. Last but not least, Manoj.
So I would also sort of stress on the financial inclusion element of it, that technology in general and AI in particular gives us the opportunity to reach out to the inclusion segment. It is important that we are able to customize product for this segment, because this segment has put up with non-customized vanilla products for just too long. Yeah? And it is, I think, in our interest as providers that we give them products that they really need. And frankly, it is in the interest of the society and the nation that they get products through which they can do some productive work. Because even in a country like Indonesia, 90% of your GDP, I'm told, comes from the small and micro enterprise segments. So it's a very large part of our economies in the developing world, which comes from the lower end segments. We are not able to customize our financial products for this segment. And I think AI, along with the improvements in technology, the digital public infrastructure that is being built in our countries, is really positioned to be able to better deliver on the needs and aspirations of these segments. So I really hope we are able to make it happen.
Thank you. Amen, Pak. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your insights and for your time. Let's give a big round of applause to our speakers. With that, I close this session and I'll give it back to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Johari Sitorus, for moderating this special panel discussion session. So please give a big round of applause. We would like to extend our gratitude to our panelists for their participation and for sharing their valuable insights in this session. So there are some points that we highlight on that panel discussion. AI is powerful tools that has been utilized and will continue to be adopted by many technologies, including fintech. It's our job to collaborate and share knowledge on the opportunities and challenges to maximize the positive utilization of AI. Okay, so please take a photo session together. All the panelists and moderator only. Yeah, okay. Photograph ready. 3, 2, 1. Once again, 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you all. Baiklah Bapak Ibu dan para hadirin sekalian, kita akan masuk ke dalam sesi diskusi terakhir pada Indonesia Fintech Summit and Expo 2024 di hari kedua ini, yaitu panel discussion ke-7 yang bertopik Fintech and the Future of Work from Startup to Digital Economy.